This one gets underway in decent form of late, whilst Arsenal, they'll be looking for a victory to try and close the gap between themselves and the top four. There were then 5 games kicking off at 3 o'clock from the Premier League. Leaders Liverpool travel to the Amex to take on Brighton. Brighton have a decent home record, and Liverpool, who can pull 7 points clear with a victory in this one, have lost their last 2 games across all competitions. There is also a couple of relegation 6-pointers at 3 o'clock. First of all, Burnley play host to Fulham at Turf Moor. Burnley have picked up a couple of games across all competitions of late to move out of the bottom 3. Fulham are still in there and 4 points adrift of safety. There's also the match between 4th bottom Cardiff, who play host to rock bottom Huddersfield. The Terriers are on a 9-match losing run across all competitions. The 2 other matches that kick off at 3 o'clock include Crystal Palace, who play host to Watford, and Leicester. They're up against Southampton, looking to bounce back from
Steve Pearson. Chelsea go with Kepa, Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Luiz and Alonso, Kante, Jorginho and Kovacic, Willian, Hazard and Pedro. For Newcastle, it's Dubravka, Yedlin, Lejeune, Lascelles, Clark and Ritchie, Longstaff, Perez, Hayden, Atsu and Rondon. We think, of course, while it's a back 5, they will play with wing-backs, which will give them a bit more attacking input. Myself, Tom Hill and Steve Pearson, it hasn't been the most entertaining days of football in the Premier League. A couple of expected scorelines, a couple of shocks. I guess we just say Southampton beating Leicester. Are we going to get a shock tonight?
I don't think we're going to get a grandstand finish now, I'm afraid to say. I think Newcastle will frustrate, they will be niggly, they will be there or thereabouts with this Chelsea side, but you just kind of get the feeling that Chelsea will just have a little bit too much pace for them in the end in this game. It may be one where Chelsea fans have to be a little patient, as one or two other sides have found against Newcastle, but despite the fragility of this Chelsea side that we see on the odd occasion, I still think Newcastle just don't have enough to keep them at bay for 90 minutes. As I say, I don't see this as being a cruise for Chelsea at all. They'll have to work hard for a victory in this game, but I still think they will have the edge by 1 or 2-0 by the end of the evening.
Yeah, I think Newcastle, or should I say, I think Benitez's teams always make life difficult. They're that drilled, that focused, that organised, that they're always going to make life a bit more difficult for you to score past them. The other side of things, we've been seeing the debate that's been on television, Rio Ferdinand saying he doesn't think the fans have got a leg to stand on when it comes to Mike Ashley and his spending power. He believes he should be praised for his spending he did when they went down and then got them back up. He believes he should be praised for getting Rafa Benitez, who of course I think applied rather than was actually head-hunted, but he still got the deal done. And he's saying, as a businessman, would you cough up £60 million worth of transfers to then sell it and be £60 million short? I can't answer that. I've never had that much money. I can tell you if I ever did, then the answer would be no. But it's a difficult one, isn't it? The club, Mike Ashley is obviously, he's at the helm. It's not my place to say whether I think he's a good owner or not. It's the fans that have got their inside track on it. I'm more of a neutral, but from the outside, it just looks like if he can get the deal he wants, and everyone could move on, it would be such a fresh start, because it's a bit like Leeds. I'm a fan myself. They're a one-club city. It's such a huge club in terms of the potential break off, because Newcastle come forward and Perez gets into the area. He's just dispossessed by Jorginho. That was a bit better from Newcastle, but it just seems like the same old story. When are we ever going to get to the point where they're happy with what's going on? I do feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I think you can see both sides of it. We'll come back to it in a second. Willian just on the break down the left-hand side. Can't get the ball in, though, just to the second. Newcastle will clear, so an opportunity. But, Mike Ashley is his own worst enemy to some extent in terms of his PR, etc., the way that he deals with his business, both in public and, it appears, in private, doesn't endear him to the supporters as well. They see the money being spent by others around them, but I understand his point of view of, I'm trying to sell this club and I want somebody to come in and do it. So who's putting the money where the mouth is? Is it he that's being difficult in terms of an offers and a deal? Is it the others that that aren't really putting up the proper money that's needed and the security that Newcastle need moving forward? They've got to be sustainable whatever way it is, and I say the only suspicion for me is that he's holding the purse strings too tightly at the moment for his own needs rather than for the club's needs. But I have an amount of sympathy with him in the sense of, as you say, would you spend the money if you're trying to sell it? Well, somebody's got to put up or shut up in that sense as well. So it's not one-dimensional, but I understand why the Newcastle fans feel the way they do. Absolutely, I'm behind the supporters. I always am in that sense, but I can see another point of view as well around that city and that club.
Yeah, certainly. So we've had a very tame start, 5 minutes in. No keeper's had anything to do as here comes Alonso, swings in across to the back stick. It's going to bounce and bobble all the way out. It's going to go all the way out. Is it now eventually? As it trickles and bobbles and without fully crossing the line. And Longstaff is the centre of the TV pictures. Made his Premier League debut back on Boxing Day against Liverpool. Seems like ages ago. Really is. That's what's scary. That's how much football has actually been played since then. 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th,
not 6th, a day off 7th, until this week.
4th.
Exactly. The TV games making it even worse than normal in that sense. It does feel like we've had 25 games for each club. We haven't, obviously. It's just the spread of the Premier League games, the FA Cup games.
It's the third, isn't it, the season that's played in December?
Yes.
And they wonder why there's injuries as Chelsea get the ball with Rudiger. There's Azpilicueta.
The only advantage is they turned the reserves out, obviously all of them in last week, so there was one game there that wasn't really a proper game for most players. Yes, there are one or two that have featured for various sides, but predominantly the Premier League sides wrote off last week and made the changes and had the kind of draw that allowed them to do that as well. It wasn't quite the run of games over the last week that we've seen over the Christmas period. Perhaps there's a little bit of normality coming back into the league structure at this time now that we've got the new year out of the way.
Yeah, I see them under pressure here. Chelsea with Newcastle with Dubravka kicks it long down the line, and he apologised to his fan base the other week. Dubravka, I think he was at fault for one of the goals against Manchester United. And there's one man that doesn't have to apologise. It would be Dubravka. He's had a stunning start to life in England in the last 18 months. Came from I think it was Sparta Prague, wasn't it? And he really has. He commands his area. Great shot stopper. Probably has no problems communicating with his defence because they know the loadout. He's in charge. As a tame start is putting this politely for all involved.
It's what we expected, isn't it? Newcastle are putting up a pressure on the halfway line when Chelsea come forward. That's where they start their defending. They're very good at it. They're quickly in to try and close down options, and when there's a player who tries to make a move further forward, they're picking up the runners most of the time as well. So very little space for Chelsea to operate in. The game is condensed into half the field as we expected it to be. Luiz tries a beautiful long ball over the top for Pedro. Look at that, goal out of nothing. Pedro over the top, lifted over the keeper, 1-0. Would you believe it?
After a very, very tame start at Stamford Bridge, a real moment of magic from the right boot of David Luiz has set up Pedro, and the winger's launched himself onto the through ball over the top. It's a huge pass over and in behind the defence. The gap between both Newcastle defence and the goalkeeper Dubravka was perfect for Pedro to bring the ball down. He sees the run, he plays it so quickly, any little millisecond of a delay and Pedro's off. He plucks it out of the sky, he lobs Dubravka, and Newcastle are 1-0 down already.
Yeah, just looking at the replay, that is really, really poor defending from Kieran Clark. I've got to call him out on it because it was the run from Pedro from out wide, certainly. Matt Ritchie clearly shouted and indicated that he got a man out wide. Clark had to pick up Pedro as he came across. Clark's on his hitching, he's not watching the player around him. By the time he reacts to the call from Ritchie, it's too late really, he's a yard behind. Good run from Pedro, he sees the angle, great vision from Luiz to find him as well. Let's commend that, but Newcastle's defending there from Clark is really, really poor. As the ball came across now for Newcastle, trying to bounce back straight away. They'll pick up the ball on the right hand side, and Kante clears it away. They picked up again though by the visitors. Yedlin coming forward down that right hand side. No space though, Chelsea sitting in at the moment. We see a stat come up every time Newcastle go behind in a game. They then go on to lose, so it's not looking good from a Newcastle point of view, even though we've played, 9 minutes and 50 odd seconds, and already the stats and the doommongers are saying there's the Chelsea victory for you straight away. Whether that comes to fruition or not is another matter, but that's poor play early on in a game. There should be better defending, as I say. Great play from Chelsea. I'll give plaudits for that. But that should never have been a situation where Pedro could have that much space in the penalty area to make a run.
Great analysis, because I didn't really notice that, because obviously I was more looking at the pass, which was brilliant. Then I was looking at the finish, which was quite good as well. I mean, Dubravka, he tried to come out. Then he thought, well, I'm not even going to get there. So it was a bit like no man's land, really, in a way. But he was sold short by Clark. I mean, you know goalkeeping better than anyone in the office, I'll give you that. That's your little mantelpiece for this. But if he comes too close, if he comes a bit further out, I think he feels, if I stand here, I've got, he has to chip me then, and he has to get it spot on. The issue is he did. That's the problem. But all the blame has to go to Clark, and then the plaudits have to go to Luiz. Another bit of a comment, that first touch from Pedro. Yeah, beautiful, wasn't it? It was beautiful play all round. It was a fabulous ball over the top and vision from Luiz. He sees Pedro start the run. Pedro starts off really wide on the right-hand side, starts to angle a run inside. It's obviously something they've worked on. It's something they've been looking at, whether it's for this game or just generally, to see those runs from out wide. They've done it. I've seen them do it before. Luiz will always look for something a little bit unusual, and usually it tends to backfire for him rather than anything else. But that time it didn't, because he knew that run was going to be made, and he knew the area that Pedro was going to be in. From Dubravka's point of view, that's a situation where he looks at the players in front of him and says, I don't need to come for that ball, because my defence will deal with that. It's too far away, they'll deal with it, I'll let them get on with it around the edge of the box, because it's dropping outside the area. By the time he realises that's not the case for Clark, it's really too late for Dubravka to get forward. Yeah, if you're being hypercritical, yes, he could come for it in the first instance, why doesn't he? But there's an expectation from him that from that distance, with one player on a run, Clark's waiting for it, Richie's called him inside, told him the player's coming, he knows that's the situation, it should be dealt with before it gets anywhere near the keeper. And then, as you say, Dubravka then ends up in no man's land. Doesn't look great for him, but for me, the problem has already been created in front of him. Yeah, just looking at the long ball there from Richie, looking to try and play in Rondon. If you want to play a long ball in behind, don't play with Salomon Rondon. He needs it into his chest, flick it down, and it's a really, really big moment of the game is Rondon's, because he's scored a few goals around November time. If you play him to his strengths, you get the best out of him. And I think some people look at him and think actually he's quite lazy. They think he's pretty poor. I think if you gave him service, he'd get 10, 15 a year. I think he is good enough in the air. He's powerful. This is not to say he's poor on the floor, but every team, this is no offence to the teams he's played for in the Premier League, every team he's played for are strugglers. They're not, and they always play one up front, so he's always got to do it on his own. And the only time they've given him a bit of support this year, he's gone and got the help. So today's not the night for him. He knows that. He'll have got off the bus and thought, this will be an hard night. I'll see about 3 touches, and I'm going to have to do my best. As Hazard goes down the line, he's beaten the offside trap. He's going to run in towards the penalty box position. Is he going to get a corner? Yes, he is. Eden Hazard, a couple of dummies we've seen of him so far. With 13.5 in, Chelsea are leading by 1. He's in the false 9 position, which didn't work against Spurs. I don't know if you saw any of that game, Steve.
Yeah.
It is a corner, by the way, but with these 3 centre-backs for Newcastle, he's going to probably get more time to slot in behind, and the fact that Pedro and William will need to support as well. Corner comes in, Newcastle clear it. That is one area of the pitch they should be stronger. Free kick is given to the Magpies. They need a 10-minute window at least, with relatively nothing happening from Chelsea. They're asking quite a lot there.
Yeah, they just settle down a little bit. Just seeing a replay again, Dubravka ends up getting knocked down. It's Rudiger who's trying to run round the back. To be fair to him, he actually tries to jump round the keeper, just knocks him over in the end. Referee sees it fairly clear, nothing too complicated for the official on that occasion. And as you said with Rondon, the problem will be today he's got to find some space, and Rudiger and Luiz don't like to go walkabout. They don't like to wander away and try and find a striker. they'll rely on players in front of them as another long ball comes into the box that Richie should be able to deal with this time, and he does, clears it away. But that's what he's got to do. He's got to pull away, because the two players in front of the central defenders for Chelsea won't want to mix it with him, particularly Jorginho, rather, I should say, and Kante. Don't want to be up against Rondon. At the moment, that seems to be what Rondon's doing. When Chelsea have the ball, he's dropping 10 yards away from the central defenders to try and just close off any balls through that they might want to play. He'll give them possession but not want them to come forward. Here's a good run though from Newcastle down the right. Rondon may with a chance to get in the box.
Yeah, ball cut back, but Alonso's managed to intercept it. Good cutting back from Alonso to get back into position. Might sound like I'm being a bit sarcastic, but he is the left back. He should be there, but he was on the way forward. Newcastle got the ball and made an attacking run. He got back. The negativity was what I didn't like from Newcastle, that they're not going to get into those areas an awful lot. So, as you say, Rondon has to find space, but what he has to do is he has to be very, very quick and agile, because he has to get back and help. But then the second he sniffs an opportunity to counter, he then has to be the only man in the box for those crosses to come and cause problems. It's a very difficult assignment. It's going to make him look bad for those watching and analysing him, but there's not really Newcastle players at the minute. If the game goes on in this vein, it will have a decent report on the stats. I saw the highlights of the Brighton-Liverpool game, by the way. At one point in the second half, Liverpool had 90% possession in the game. Chelsea might do the same. Ball into the box, Hazard and co. Kovacic gets in behind, but it's a scrapping a bit of play. I think that's from Florian Lejeune that manages to get it clear. Wrestling on the floor, the centre-back refuses to go down early. Then he slides in, almost catches Kovacic, in all fairness. The legs are flailing around everywhere, and after fourth attempt, he eventually gets it clear. He's a lucky boy there, really.
Yeah, he is. If he catches Kovacic, you can bet your bottom dollar he's heading for the turf and trying to get the decision as the ball comes in from the corner. Easily cleared away, though. Poor set piece from Chelsea. But again, as you say there, Lejeune, he got himself on the right side in there. To be fair, I think he slipped a little to start off with, rather than making a mess of it. But then had to try and keep his feet away from Kovacic and get the ball, and just about managed to do it, more by luck than judgment in the end. Kovacic, really, you'd think if he's looking behind him, maybe just stands still, waits for a foot to clatter into the back of his leg and goes down. And maybe Kovacic wasn't quite as sharp there as he could have been, and maybe could have got himself something inside the penalty area. But it's not great from Newcastle in the sense of players finding easy routes round the back, in between the back three and the full-backs as well.
Yeah, I think rustiness is expected with Florian Lejeune, because they're actually flabbergasted he's playing.
Yes.
He did his knee, didn't he, in his summit, his ligaments, and he's already back. Tremendous recovery from him. So he's not going to be 100% for a while. Yes, he's fit to play. Just those little bit of sharpness, though, his reading of the game will be off as Kante skips away from Longstaff. There is Rudiger. Azpilicueta. Back inside to Jorginho. Nice long ball over the top to Kante. Kante goes down the right touchline. Newcastle want a free kick. Not going to get. Well, I thought they were both a 50-50 though. Really, it's not. It's the long ball over the top. Clark was the one that wants it. Now Kante lets it bounce. It's a coming together, but I think you've just got to play on. I think if it's the other way around, if Kante had gone down, I'd still say play on. As we're waiting for a throw in here, there's a bit of a delay. I'm not sure what the issue is, because Chelsea just stood not doing anything. I thought something had happened. They're actually just waiting to move. Now Pedro and Kante tip across the surface. It's been quite a dancing. Then he eventually throws it down the line. It's intercepted by Lascelles. That should be filmed and described as how not to make a throw. Absolutely.
No runners, nobody finding space. Eventually somebody makes half a run and the ball's put into a space where there's two Newcastle players. I've got to agree with you on the ball forward as well. Kante, yes, there's a coming together between Kante and Clark, purely accidental. Referee quite right to wave that on. Clark can look around all he likes. He did get brought down, absolutely, but I don't think there's anything deliberate in it at all. It's purely accidental as the two players came across each other, and referee spot on for me at that time.
Weird game this, 20 minutes in and I've run one thing down. Pedro's goal.
And yeah, the 20 minutes seems to have gone past quite
really
quickly.
Quick. The little things down the line, that little dribbles and corners, you can't write that down as a note for an attacking chance, but as you say, it has gone we're almost at the point to hand over halfway, and I can't really get my head around that because, I mean, this must be better than the Huddersfield Cardiff game. I know you've got a goal.
We've had a shot for a start.
I saw something saying that Cardiff had 2 shots in general.
Yes, I think officially we waited until the final minute to have a shot on target, I think is the truth of that game, unfortunately. But Newcastle, another side towards the bottom of the table. That game, I'd said, between Cardiff and Huddersfield showed up their failings rather badly. This game so far, not quite doing the same for Newcastle, but we see the pattern emerging that we expected to see from this Newcastle side. They are starting to come out of their shell just a little bit as we tick past the 20-minute mark, as they feel they've got to at least come forward a bit. So they have gone to the second stage of the plan in terms of today's game. They're not quite sitting back as deep as they were in the first 10 or 15 minutes, but they're not exactly throwing players forward as you'd expect at this stage, with Chelsea leading 1-0.
That ball forward, there's Atsu. Atsu gets it back, gives it to Ritchie. There's Clark, there's Longstaff, goes across midfield, and it's in towards Hayden, who's confirmed he wants to move, so he'll play on and will try everything he can to help Newcastle, but admits his family do want to move back further down south, I believe it is. And of course, some fans have taken to it poorly, some fans have taken to it well. You're never going to please them all. And of course, sometimes, if he's going to play and give it his all, then family comes first, Steve.
Well, he does.
Work is work, but it's not as if it's worse if he refuses to play. That's the issue. But he hasn't refused to play. He just said in the January window, if someone comes in, I'd like to move on. As Newcastle are flagged offside, all the momentum gone.
And I think that's fair enough for a player to have that honesty about it. Say it's not really working for him, and if that is a genuine reason, then that's it. If it's because you're not getting the side, your team's not playing very well, you think you might get relegated. Well, there's no guarantee he'll go to another Premier League side anyway. Even if he does move, further south in that sense, it may be drop down a division if that's the case. But we shall see from Hayden's point of view. I think. If that's the situation, he's likely to move, then I think it's fair enough to come out and say the reasons behind it before it actually happens.
Yeah, certainly so. As Kante intercepts in the middle of midfield, it's going to be prodded forward into Pedro, who runs into traffic. There is Clark, out to the left. Down the line they come. Fizzed forward. Back from Louise to Rudiger. Tempo isn't great either. Kovacic. Chelsea are trying to get it forward, but I've seen Chelsea play with a lot more zip about themselves. As here it is, back across. Little layoff. They're going to go down the left. That's Lascelles that has to go all the way back. It's a misplaced pass from Lejeune. There is Dubravka. Dubravka's going to launch it forward. Rondon's underneath it. It's a little chest control. There it is with Pedro. Dancing away. They're going to try and rescue the possession. They've given the free kick, and the play will resume. We'll give you a chance of an update of what we have seen so far. Since the goal for Pedro, it remains Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0. Very little has happened. Chelsea have pushed forward, trying to score at a couple of opportunities, won a couple of corners as a result, struggling to win them and get them past the near post though. So Newcastle are dealing with the set pieces pretty well. They're not dealing with possession. They've had very, very little touches. Chelsea are getting down both flanks as well. Azpilicueta, the latest man to get in behind before moaning about a free kick. And Newcastle yet to really start to put a dominant force in midfield. Could be a very long night, not only for the players and the coaches, but for those travelling fans. They need to improve here in the first half. It's 1-0 to Chelsea. Quickly, by the way, as I mentioned, Azpilicueta getting down the right on that occasion. He has just been fouled by Matt Ritchie, who has, for me, taken the spot of the worst tackler in the Premier League from Paul Scholes, who retired a few years ago. He clips his man, he dives in early, he's got a card, and now it'll be Steve Pearson to take us through to half-time.
Yeah, there wasn't much contact from Ritchie, but he lunged in just to try and make sure that Azpilicueta couldn't have a proper run into the penalty area. So fair enough that it's a free kick. He will say he didn't kick. I think there was enough on it to suggest that intent was there, if nothing else, and it came to nothing for Chelsea. Therefore, the referee brings it back. Willian chips the ball in towards the far post. Header comes in from Louise. Seemed to come off. Well, surely that came off a defender and came out. Louise is making the same point to the referee and to the point to the ball in from Willian as well. But it needed to be further out. I if that came off the Chelsea man, did it? Perhaps did it come off the back of Chelsea player? Certainly came off of somebody. Difficult to tell. I thought that came off a Newcastle head. But anyway, referee gives a decision to the visitors, so a goal kick is taken, and Newcastle come forward now. Long raking ball onto the left hand side. Ritchie though just has to head it forward to keep it in play. Can't really do anything else with it, and the ball harmlessly bounces behind for a goal kick to Chelsea, which is about the only possession that Azpilicueta has seen so far. We see a replay again of the lunge in by Ritchie. He certainly didn't catch him with the leg he was going for the ball with, just caught him with the trailing leg, Azpilicueta, and then went down after 2 or 3 steps, but it was certainly a free kick. Referee quite right to give it. Here come Newcastle with a bit of interplay just inside the Chelsea half for once. Little ball over the top for Erzi Perez. Tries a first time ball in. He's looking for Rondon. It comes off the heels of Luiz as he runs back into the penalty area and will roll behind for a corner kick. First set piece opportunity for Newcastle, and much better from the Magpies as well.
The thing is, again, it sounds like we're talking and they've been a little bit sarcastic, but he's in the right area. He's asking for the ball. He's asking for it. Rondon, I think, has just tried to nut the post and put his hand out first and actually hit the post himself. So it's a frustrating night, but it is better from them. Get him into the right areas if you get the ball, but don't take a short corner, which they have done. They're going to kick it out behind, little cut back, it's not come off, and Chelsea are going to clear it. The one advantage is they've got 3 centre-backs on the pitch. Put the ball in the box.
Absolutely, as Ritchie puts a header into the area as Chelsea are struggling to clear. Will drop back, shot comes in, Lejeune, I think it is, in the end, who suddenly pops up on the edge of the box, gets a shot in. Chelsea, though, clear it quickly away through Arif. It comes up towards Willian. On the overlap goes Pedro, now popping up on the left-hand side. Willian steps inside, thinks about a shot, decides instead just to push it into the path of Hazard, who is forced away from the area by Lejeune, who then blocks the attempted ball forward from Azpilicueta. Lejeune going walkabout from his usual central defensive situations. We see a replay again of his strike. It came through. There was an opportunity for Clark almost to get a header onto that as well. That might have just deflected it away from Arif, but it didn't happen. And the keeper making a comfortable save in the end, but at least a warning shot across the bows from this Newcastle side. 27 minutes gone, Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0, and finally we're starting to see Newcastle at least putting a few players further forward now.
Perez is the one that's got to do it a bit more. I think I used to vote Perez as one of the most overrated players in the Premier League, and this year, or the end of last, he started to really deliver, and I thought, fair enough, he's actually got a bit of a goal-scoring touch. Again, would he flourish in a team that have got a bit more attacking output, that don't have to defend constantly? I don't think that suits Premier League quality. Tries hard. I think he'd excel at the Championship, though. That's probably the difference. Pardon me. So those two need to support Rondon a bit more. Yes, they've got wing-backs. Losing the midfield battle as well. Chelsea are only playing a midfield 3. You wouldn't realise, would you? They're playing against a midfield 3. And there's 4 or 5 in midfield for Newcastle, and Kovacic, Jorginho and Kanté are bossing that. So always going to be a difficult night at the office, but it's still in it. I mean, I said to you, after about 16-17, they had a 10-minute spell. They're through it now. They've had their first shot on goal. They had a couple of crosses. Just stop taking short corners, and I'll be all right.
Yes, it's certainly not a bad performance from Newcastle so far. It's kind of what we expected, but here comes Rondon inside the Chelsea half, but he's facing away from goal. Newcastle will keep possession for a moment or two. They'll come all the way back to Lascelles in the end, inside his own half of the field. Clark under a little bit of pressure from Willian, decides to go all the way back to Dubravka. And the ball picked up by them. Just 4 goals in their last 8 Premier League games, though, for Newcastle. Sums up the issue that they face in terms of these games coming forward now as we go into the new year, and the desperation for points. Burnley getting a win today, but that was only over Fulham. Cardiff and Huddersfield, we've already talked about drawing a blank in their game. Southampton getting a victory, so points key somewhere along the lines. Rondon forces it forward to Atsu, back to Rondon again, good chance for a shot. He was under pressure, he gets the shot in. Is it deflected behind? I think it may have been. Referee's pointing towards a corner, it appears. Good opportunity, good defending with a late challenge just to fling himself in there, Azpilicueta, and it was going wide anyway, I suspect, from Rondon. In fact, it's gone straight out. Actually, I thought the referee was pointing across from the right hand side of the penalty area towards a corner. He was just indicating goal kick.
Maybe he was trying to say how wide it had gone.
Yes.
Well wide, that. But, again, that's three registered efforts in 5 minutes. Yes, not very good, but they're getting into the right areas. I'm sure you'd have liked that if you'd been watching the Cardiff Huddersfield game at that stage.
Just anything.
Anything at all. Do you know what I mean? But it sounds simple, but you've got to need a base to build on. And the thing is, this Newcastle team are not strangers to pulling off. It was the other year, wasn't it, when they were playing Manchester United last season, when they went 2-0 up. And no one expected it. And eventually, United were under pressure. They're not useless. They're just drilled into a defensive shield because Benitez doesn't feel they're good enough to go toe-to-toe with quite a lot of teams, which they're not, unfortunately. If they give him a bit of money to spend, I'm sure they'll be changing their tactics, but he's always been a defensive-minded manager anyway. He likes to look after his own back four, then attack. So it's not stranger to them, but they are in action again on Tuesday for the FA Cup. Blackburn will be the hosts, and I can't remember a year where Newcastle actually tried in the FA Cup. Not in the 2000s, anyway.
No, I wouldn't expect it to be any different on Tuesday night against Blackburn either, although we'll see what kind of side Blackburn turn out as well in that
they're
game.
Right now as well.
Yes.
Which I am told via a comment on my phone that someone has gone off after 7 seconds.
7 seconds, good effort.
Which I'm not sure if that is true, but I'm told that's the case.
Can't fault him for originality.
What I'm wanting to know is, how is that possible? What can you do?
In 7 seconds?
Must have been an aerial clear, surely.
That's Vinnie Jones.
Well,
what you can do inside 7 seconds. There's one for the teenagers. Look it up on YouTube. Ball is out of play for a throw-in for Newcastle, deep inside the Chelsea half, though easily cleared by Louise in the end. It'll be picked up though inside his own half, and then the referee gives a rather cheap free kick, I should say. He doesn't give it away himself. Newcastle just snapping at the heels of Hazard. And the referee will bring it back for a Chelsea free kick that alleviates any pressure that Newcastle appeared to be putting on. Here come Chelsea on the break, then down the left-hand side with Willian. Hazard will make the run further forward. Not too many players inside though for Willian to aim at. He has to go back to Jorginho. Chips one over the top. Lascelles reads it though, comes across, heads it away. Newcastle though lose possession as Perez can't take control of it. Here comes Alonso, out wide again before played inside for Jorginho. Chelsea are happy to tip-tap for the moment. Midway inside the Newcastle half as they'll play it square again to Rudiger. Onto the right-hand side for Azpilicueta. He looks up. Nowhere to go though, just for the second. Finds Kante. Back to Azpilicueta again. Here's Jorginho. Nice interplay from Chelsea, but Newcastle with so many players back. There's no need for Chelsea to force the issue, of course. They lead by 1-0. The goal scored by Pedro early on in the game. And here he is with the ball at his feet. Tries a long ball over onto the left-hand side for Hazard. Hazard puts the thumbs up and says, yep, idea was right. The pass unfortunately wasn't. You see a replay again of the goal from Pedro. Beautiful ball over the top from Luiz. Perfectly timed run as well. Round the back from Pedro. Great first touch, great finish. Nice play all round from all the Chelsea players involved. As you say, you would query a little bit the defending from Clark. Here come Chelsea though. Pedro again will fancy a shot from distance. Doesn't really get anything behind it this time. He does get it on target. Dubravka has to make the save. But it's a fairly comfortable one for the Newcastle keeper, who just ambles across to his left-hand side, picks up the ball and starts things off again. But again, Pedro finding space. Again, not being closed down by Newcastle at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a player that through the middle, I don't think teams worry about him, but that shouldn't be the attitude to have. He's an exceptionally quality football player who, but for the brilliance of Neymar, Messi and co, would still be in a Barcelona team. It was just because they were players of a generation at the same time as him is why he, of course, dropped to the pecking order. But you can't leave him unmarked in those areas. He will punish you. Newcastle
take a short free kick and then lift the ball towards the penalty areas. Eventually cleared by Chelsea. They made a real meal of it. And eventually it's gone out of play for a throw-in as well to Newcastle, but only just inside the Chelsea half of the field on their right-hand side. Rafa Benitez a little frustrated with his side again. I suspect because they didn't actually get the ball into the area from the free kick. Decided to do something different.
That's 2 or 3 set pieces now. Surely the word's got to go out. If one of you takes the next one, you're coming off. Show something. You've got to show. Someone's got to get the message out. Stop taking them short. There's no need for it. They've been, it's no surprise. Chelsea have got double the amount of passes, but the game is evening it out a little bit, isn't it? So it's not as if Newcastle are not going to get no chances at all. They're going a bit more route one. They're pushing Chelsea back, and of course, just allowing them to absorb the pressure and let him, sit on the ball. As we see Lejeune, he has been the most active Newcastle player in the centre half.
The ball is back with Dubravka inside his own penalty area. Launched it long downfield. Good header on by Rondon. Chance perhaps here for Perez. Oh, he's put it wide. Should have done better. Had to get it on target. Wasn't totally dissimilar in terms of position to the opportunity that Pedro had from the flick on. Great play by Rondon. Found space again in front of Luiz. Got his header onto it. Maybe an offside. I think he's off looking at that. If the groundsman's done his job right and got the lines right, he was in the next shaded area of the pitch ahead of the Chelsea defence. But that is a fabulous opportunity for Perez, and for me, he has to score there.
Yeah, he's just sliced it. Has he been put off maybe by Azpilicueta's pressure and maybe a panic? They might get a kick to the boot and try to slice it. But hey ho, what a surprise. You play a ball into Salomon Rondon's head and he'll do some damage. Don't kick it 30 metres beyond him and expect him to do something. Just nice and sharper from Newcastle, and they're asking more questions. Here come Chelsea though. Yeah, offside flag goes up against Willian. Just to quickly put in, Steve, I'll just get another update going on what we have seen before I can hand back to you. Still Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0 as we approach the half-time interval at Stamford Bridge. And despite what was a very poor start in the first 20 minutes, Newcastle have now had 3 shots registered on goal. Lejeune had a volley from range which was saved by Kepa. Rondon then fired wide from the near post before Perez has just done the same. A long ball over the top to Rondon. He flicked it on while Perez looked offside. He was just about to be, played in behind fractions in it, millimetres. Linesman didn't spot it. He ran in on goal but could only volley wide of the target. Chelsea themselves have had a chance. David Luiz has headed over the bar from a corner which he should have done better with, while Pedro's produced a tame shot. Much more even now as we approach the interval. Chelsea still leading though by a single goal to 0.
Here come Chelsea again down the left hand side with Willian. About 4 black and white shirts all around him. He looks a little frustrated that there wasn't much movement square off him to give him an opportunity. The ball works its way all the way across to Azpilicueta. 3 shots on target, 2 for Chelsea, one of them being the goal of course, and 1 on target for Newcastle, but it's probably the one that they've missed through Perez that went wide. It will give them the most hope that they can get something out of this game, but will also bring them the most frustration. They're not on level terms because he certainly should have scored for me from there. Here come Chelsea though, the other end of the field as Alonso flicks it on down the left hand side. Players in the box if they can get it over through Hazard, but the challenge comes in. It's behind for another Chelsea corner, which they will come forward to take on their left hand side. 8 minutes to go to the break, and Hazard will wander away from the front of the penalty area. Goes out wide looking for a short ball in. Like he's going to get it this time. Looks like the corner will come straight into the penalty area, which it does from Willian towards Rudiger, but an easy catch for Dubravka, who can just walk to the edge of his 6-yard box and pluck that one out of the sky as it skims across. You see a shot of Oliver Giroud on the bench. I don't think even he would have been able to get anywhere near that one in terms of a ball in. Another option for Chelsea as this game goes on, of course. The ball worked to Richie for Newcastle now inside the Chelsea half. Atsu in space, drives into the penalty area. Challenge again comes in from Pedro. Who did it come off last? Referee gives himself a lot of thinking time before finally pointing for a corner. Jorginho and Luiz combining to make the challenge, but again Atsu with space on the edge of the penalty area, really properly closed down. In fact, it was Pedro actually who got the challenge in on him in the end. So it will be a Newcastle corner kick from their left hand side. Again, we see Clark, Lascelles and others sniffing around in the penalty area. Plenty of aerial power in there for both sides as Richie puts it in towards the edge of the 6-yard box. It comes off, looks like the back of David Luiz's head in the end, as he was battling on the edge of the 6-yard box, and it spins out of play for another corner kick. Same side for Newcastle. Atsu will come short for it. Looks like he's been waved away at least to begin with for this one. Newcastle with all their players on the far post this time, which he again thinks about playing it short to Atsu, and goes back to a ball into the area. Again, it's into the 6-yard box, header in, and a goal for Newcastle. Kieran Clark, who we said was somewhat at fault for the goal that Chelsea scored early on, has got the equaliser. Powerful header into the bottom corner, 1-1.
Just before half-time, Newcastle have drawn level. I told you they were getting back into the game, and they've now managed to get an equaliser. And the man who was at fault for the first, Kieran Clark, has managed to get the goal back. Corner comes in from Ritchie after 3 or 4 short corners that came to nothing. Newcastle went for the jugular. They've swung the ball in. Clark was supposed to be marked by David Luiz, who decides to give him 2 yards head start. He waves his arm in frustration. He has to look in a mirror. It's all his fault. It's a brilliant header into the bottom corner. Kepa's got no chance. Game on at Stamford Bridge. It's 1 apiece.
How many times do we see it with David Luiz? He switches off for a second or two, but Benitez is...
I think he's just trying to frustrate and saying, well, no surprise, I think, is what he's saying. Fourth time of asking to swing a corner in.
Absolutely. Newcastle have had opportunities to get the ball in the box, to put this Chelsea defence under pressure, and they haven't done it. The first time they do, they create a chance. Here's Willian, though, at the other end of the field. Oh, one-on-one with Dubravka. Has it gone straight wide without even a touch from the keeper? Well, if it has, that's a really poor miss from Willian. He got a little ball over the top. Just trying to see who played it over. I think it's Jorginho. Times his run to perfection over the back of a real mess of a defence from Newcastle, but then drags his shot from the angle wide. And boy, Newcastle have dodged a bullet that time as Rafa Benitez gets his shopping list out of his pocket to say what he's told his players, I suspect, before the game, and he's making the point about the runs, I would suspect, from out wide. They didn't pick it up for the goal. They didn't pick it up that time again, and they've almost gifted Chelsea a second.
Yeah, again, it's the easiest time, isn't it, to concede is when you've scored yourself. It's the old cliche. I know stats actually prove it at times. It can't be, but it's just when you switch off a little bit. There were almost times where you see them break off here because Ritchie always had a volley attempt and he's fired. It's closer to the corner flag. It's that bad that Alonso's had the chance to dummy it for a goal kick. But of all the players on the left-hand side of that pitch to have a volley opportunity, Matt Ritchie would be the one I'd pick.
And it's a decent ball in as well because he takes it away from Rudiger and Luiz. Rondon's dragged them into the middle. That's fine. There's space behind them. Ritchie drops into the right space, and then you say it's an absolute shocker. But anyway, at least it's another glimpse for Newcastle.
By the way, that's why David Luiz will never be elite.
No, don't get me started on David Luiz. I'd never thought he was elite in the first place.
He's not a centre-half for me.
No.
I think he'd be a good centre midfielder.
I just find him to be a liability wherever he is. I think he's a better central midfielder because then there's a chance somebody behind him could tidy up his mistakes.
He can pass, he can shoot, he can tackle, and he can defend. He'd be better holding the midfield. You think he can defend at all?
I'm not sure he can defend.
See, I'll be honest with you. I think sometimes he can be brilliant, but he's got a concentration span of a 2-year-old.
Oh, he's like a goldfish.
But then
he's an absolute goldfish defender.
The worst thing there is saying, why is he blaming someone else?
David Luiz should be a goalkeeper. He'll blame anybody in front of him if that gets the opportunity. But again, as we said, how many times do we have David Luiz look in the mirror? He's a liability for me as a defender. I've always felt that. Yes, it's a great ball over the top for the goal. Fantastic vision, everything else, but as you say, that's not what he's there for. But he's pulled one out of the top drawer there. But from a defensive point of view, 2 or 3 times already. Didn't get the header for Rondon, did he? Gave him space when he flicked it on for Perez. Perez should have scored. He's then not picked up the runner in terms of Clark. Whatever the defending was, looking at his own frustration tells me that he knows he should have been watching Clark and should have been tight on him, and he wasn't. Anyway, here comes Chelsea with Willian, other end of the field. Let's see if they can create something in the couple of minutes we have before the break. Here's Jorginho in space, threads the ball through towards Hazard on the edge of the box. He's crowded out of it. It breaks for Kante. He'll find a player on the right-hand side, Aspilicueta, corner of the penalty area, cuts across. Square ball again, Jorginho onto the edge of the box for Hazard, right-hand side, steps inside. His left-footed shot, though, is charged down. Drop all the way up towards halfway, where Rondon does a great job holding off Rudiger, but then finds himself surrounded by blue shirts before he can get any reinforcements forward to him. And therefore David Luiz will come away with the ball up over the halfway line. Luiz again tries that angled ball looking for Pedro. Does win a header, but it falls straight to the feet of Clark, who will clear it away downfield. Comes to the feet of Luiz, and this time does manage to hold Rondon off it. And away come Chelsea down their right-hand side with Pedro. Newcastle with players back in numbers, though. Jorginho into the box. Hazard tries a little flick, but nobody in blue inside actually reads it. And therefore it's cleared away by Dubravka. But Poor clearance really by him. Nowhere near Rondon or anybody else in a black and white shirt. And therefore Chelsea are able to come forward again with a little ball into feet for Hazard. Can't control it though, cleared away by Hayden. And Newcastle now perfectly happy just to ride this one out towards half time. With 30 seconds left, Rondon is left an isolated figure upfield as everybody else is back to defend. Here goes Luiz again, looking for that long ball over the top. This time for Willian. Blocked out though quite comfortably by Perez, tracking back this time. Cleared away though. Here's Hazard, drops deep, picks up possession, drives at the penalty area, left hand side. Tries to flick it inside for Kovacic. He's beaten to it. Atsu clears it away. A little 1-2 with Perez, and away goes Atsu down the centre. He's got nobody to aim at though at the moment. Does well, holds up play, finds Rondon, long way from goal, 25 yards out. He's lost possession of the ball, but Newcastle win it back, and they've got players in here in the centre. Poor cross though from the right hand side, and Rudiger able to clear quite comfortably. 2 minutes of stoppage time to be played. We're already into it, around about 15 seconds into that extra time. The referee is allowed. Here's Jorginho. Poor ball by him. Terrible ball, in fact, easily picked up by Yedlin.
I'm not sure what the fuss is about with him, personally.
We are writing off quite a lot of Premier League careers this afternoon, Tom.
I'm just meaning money-wise. Good player, but he's no better than Kante is.
Here comes Atsu for Newcastle, chips it into the box. A decent ball. It's not really cleared well by Rudiger. Rondon was the target on the far post. It never quite got to him. But it was a nice idea from Newcastle, and then as they challenged for the ball around the edge of the area, it breaks away for Arespalago.
He can't defend better than Kante, and he can't pass better than Kovacic or Barkley. He doesn't. I don't know really what. He's just a little tick-over player that plays the most simplest of passes. I'm not saying that's not a job, but very expensive considering I think there's better out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I'd put him in the category of overpriced at this stage.
There's quite a lot of players here.
There is a number of players who are sat in that folder.
A manual. Encyclopedia.
Here's the ball for Rudiger inside the area. Here's another one. David Luiz, come forward again. I'm having a real go at Luiz tonight, I know, I'm sorry. Ball out on the left hand side, chipped into the area. Newcastle with the header, still not clear though. Might drop on that right hand side for Hazard, but as he challenges, the referee decides that he goes over the top of the Newcastle player really. And the free kick is given deep inside the Newcastle half of the field though. We see a replay again of Kieran Clark's header. It's a great header from Clark. To be fair to him, he's 10 yards out. Arespalago never has a chance. Ball is right into the corner, just where the keeper can't get across to it. Again, as we said, Luiz slow to react to the situation happening in front of him. And as we talk about that, the referee blows the half-time whistle. Good half, you would say, therefore, for Newcastle. 1-1 at the break.
Half-time at Stamford Bridge, and it's Chelsea 1, Newcastle 1. First goal of the game came in the 9th minute when Pedro latched onto a David Luiz through ball, capitalised on poor defending from Kieran Clark and lobs Dubravka in goal. Newcastle eventually woke up around the 27-minute mark when Lejeune had a volley. Rondon fired wide, as did Perez. Those mistakes were eventually forgotten about though. Clark heading home from a corner. David Luiz is loose marking, and Newcastle are back level and pushing for a point. Half-time at back underway then for the game at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea versus Newcastle. Myself, Tom Hill, Steve Pearson bringing you the action. If you've just decided to sit down on your Saturday evening and have a little look around and have a little listen of our commentary, you've missed the following. Chelsea opened the scoring in the 9th minute. Pedro from a Luiz long ball over the top. Perez missed a few chances before Kieran Clark then scored with a 40th minute header. Chelsea dominated possession. At one point looked like they were going to cruise to victory. The longer the half went on, the more you thought that Newcastle might even go get a second. So Chelsea missed chances of their own. Luiz and Willian should have easily made it 2 or 3. Newcastle themselves had 2 good chances. It's been one of those really strange games where the tempo's not been brilliant. It's been a 5:30, not a stalemate, but a bit of a level playing field towards the end. We're hoping for more second half crunch as here comes Rondon bursting forward, releases Yedlin, who wants to try and turn inside, spins and pirouettes away from his marker, then plays it behind Rondon. Shocking from Yedlin. After doing all the hard work, he then can't even play a 1-yard pass. Here's Willian, glides forward, Kovacic can't pick it up. That's going to bounce into Kante, whose first time pass is sensational, into Pedro, who strikes it. Dubravka tips it away. Great save, and that really was good from Chelsea. Kante's pass, no luck, absolutely spellbinding. It's just split the defence in 2. And Dubravka had to stay big, Steve. And by what a save that is.
Yeah, great play all round, wasn't it? As you say, superb from Kante. Had a little look before the ball came to him, knew exactly where Pedro was. Perfect pass, good strike as well across the goalkeeper, and Dubravka's strong hand to push it away. Very bright start from all 3.
Yeah, ball in, Dubravka comes out. Oh, he's misplaced the pass. Alonso Luiz, oh, he's hooked it away as Atsu. Well, Alonso to David Luiz, the pass was on. Just after the praising Dubravka, he catches, or goes to catch, should I say, the most simplest of balls. I think, no, he's going to punch it, then he decides to catch it, and then just lets it hit him.
It changes his mind. Yeah, he does, absolutely. He's going for the punch because he thinks it's coming in closer to the players in front of him. At the last second, it looks like he changes his mind to try and catch. Not the right thing to do. If you're going to punch, just go with it. Punch, get rid of it. Don't try and change your mind at such a late stage. He makes a real mess of that one, and boy, does he get away with it.
Is it me? Or the only way you can change is if you're going to catch and then change to punch? Because you can't go like that with one arm and then go, oh.
Well, he goes to punch with both hands. If you see, he starts to, I think if you look at it again, he starts to put both hands up, ready to punch, get nice power on it, plenty of distance and elevation on it, which is what he should be doing, and then starts to open his hands up, thinking he can make the catch quite comfortably. I think he just misjudges the flight as it comes in. I think he thinks he's going to have to go over the top of the players in front of him. By the time he realises he doesn't, it's too late and he shouldn't make the change.
Certainly shouldn't. Ball in. There's Newcastle. Atsu heads it. Alonso touches it down. Well, he's telling to Kepa, you can pick that ball up. It just hit me. It's a difficult one, isn't it? If Kepa picks it up and Newcastle scores, Sarri's going to be absolutely seething. Just launch it long downfield is the answer. Alonso eventually manages to get the ball clear with teammates. Chelsea play it down the line. There's just not so much clicking about Chelsea. The one man you don't want to be heading a ball is Atsu. He's in there with Rondon. It's a good lead from Atsu, but he just doesn't time it right. If he just sets off a little bit later, Luiz is out of position. Rudiger's out of position. Newcastle had them stretched there.
Yeah, look at it again. It's not quite clear whether it would have got to Rondon because Luiz, as you say, was scampering back across and may have just got there before the big Newcastle striker. So I think Atsu had to go with the head, but another good opportunity goes away.
Yeah, Alonso goes across goal, but it's deflected off the feet of Yedlin. Puts his right foot through it to an applause from the Newcastle fans. Now Hazard, of all people, has tried to pluck the ball out of the sky and kicked it straight out for a throw. I don't know if you've seen the Juan Mata first touch from the game last week.
Yes, I have, yes.
Which was unbelievable.
It wasn't something you don't see too often from any player at whatever level in that sense, but yeah, we're not seeing that kind of control tonight, are we, from anybody?
Well,
other than the pass perhaps from Pedro in terms of his first touch was superb as well, but I don't think quite in the same category.
Oh, mistake here from Luiz. Oh, they've said it's a foul from Perez, who's playing his innocence. He's maybe come slightly from behind. He's trying to claim it's a sideways on tackle and they've met the ball together. Whether he kicks the standing leg, referee's having none of it. Atsu was maybe away for a one-on-one or a 2-on-1 if he could have waited for Perez to catch up with him. That left Rudiger on his own, stretched. As here's Kante spreading it out towards Azpilicueta. Kante again, oh, another missed touch from him. What is going on here in this second half at Stamford Bridge? Atsu again runs into trouble. He's chopped down, free kick. Players that don't make mistakes like they are just coughing them up left, right and centre.
Yeah, it's a slack performance really all round, isn't it? See it again.
Hard one for that Perez one.
Yeah, he probably did.
I think
just
he
about catch
clips
him.
Louise as he gets the ball at the same time.
Yeah, it's a difficult one for the referee to judge on. He's got to go on first glance and full speed, probably with a different angle as well from what we've just seen on the replay. I think you can understand why the referee's given the decision there, but I'm not totally sure it was a foul in that sense. But as you say, too many players making sloppy mistakes at the moment.
Yeah, the ball's going to be fired forward. It's flicked on by Clark. It's headed out by Alonso. Newcastle trying to add a second here. Going to try and nest it in that far corner if they can, but it's cleared only poorly by Alonso. He's got a second attempt now. He cushions it into Kovacic, who shapes if he's going to play the 1-2, decides against it, takes his time, passes it to Jorginho, and now Chelsea come across the right-hand side. Rudiger out towards Azpilicueta. Can they find a way out towards this left wing? It is with Luiz again. He's going to carry the ball forward and goes out towards the left-hand side. There's Willian down the touchline. Going to take a touch or two. They're going to try and dribble it into a dinner position. Hazard lays it off. It's going to come out to the edge of the box. It's floated out to the right-hand side now. Plucked out of the sky by, I think it's Azpilicueta. There he is. Jorginho turns away. Everyone forward pretty much for Chelsea apart from Jorginho, Rudiger and Luiz. Jorginho's been pushed back by some terrific work. I think it's by Longstaff in midfield. And from Chelsea being on the edge of Newcastle's box, they're now inside their own half, only just crossing halfway now with David Luiz, who fires a pass forward. It's another poor touch from Chelsea times 2. Newcastle, though, have had to sweep across and clear the ball away. Unsure if it's gone out for a corner. No, throwing it is. Alonso. There it is with Kovacic. He's going to turn away, play it back. Alonso gets a touch. Hazard takes one as well. He's going to dribble his way towards the edge of the box. It's going to be floated across the far right-hand side. Still not fully under control. Now played back. There's Jorginho. Fizzes it out to the left. Over the head of everyone. Out for a throw-in. I don't want to restart this 7 minutes of the second half. Can we just reset, though? Get them off the pitch and say, right, boys, come on. You're Premier League footballers here. It's a real sense of nerve that I think they're both fearing each other. Maybe a bit of a grilling at half time. Maybe the long fixture list is just starting to affect them. Bit of tiredness and sloppiness, even though they've had a week off, most of them. But second half, fluidity wise, has been shocking.
And there's a fear of failure you feel around these two sides at the moment. Newcastle, as you'd expect, don't want to push forward too far. That's understandable. You know, they know their own deficiencies, they know their own strengths, and therefore they are sitting back and playing the game perfectly, they would say, and you know, quite rightly so. I'm not going to criticise them at all for the way that they're playing, because it is working and they're doing well so far in this game. From a Chelsea point of view, there is definitely a sense of fear around them, that they don't want to push too far forward, because then they might get caught on the break by this Newcastle side, and you know, they look a side that's a little bit uncomfortable being at home at the moment, at least.
Yeah, here comes Cancelo, intercepted the ball out to Willian, who's going to get the ball down. Gets it to Willian, cuts the ball back, and Lejeune gets his leg across to concede the corner. Willian stretching the play all the time, really quality. A real quality operator is Willian. He's constantly pulling them wide. Firstly, I want to know where DeAndre Yedlin's gone. He's the right back. I can't even see him on the TV picture. He needs to be in position. No wonder Newcastle were stretched. Corner to come. Luiz is wrestling with Clark. Can he get a goal back to the near post? Cleared away. Out for another corner. Yeah,
straight out Rondon it was, just marshalling the near post, just covering that area in front of the keeper and cleared it away. But, plenty of movement inside the box. Willian's got plenty to aim at here.
Yeah, Willian swings it into the near post. Dubravka spilled it again. He maybe saw it late. Shocking clearance from Perez. Headed back in by Azpilicueta. Still a sea of bodies. Referee's waving. Landon's waving. Referee puts his arm out. He claims it's a free kick. It's against Azpilicueta. Is that Sean Bassett that's giving the call? She's claiming him down the back of the ankle. Is it Rudiger that's maybe done it? He's wrestling. Well, it's Lascelles that's all over him. Perez then spoons it. Azpilicueta jumps. So Azpilicueta doesn't do anything wrong. So no, it must be someone else.
Yeah, there's something going off inside the 6-yard box. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Oh, it's there. It's Rudiger holding back the defender. Well, quite right. Good spot, actually, by the
really good spot
by the assistant. Yeah, good spot to pick that one up and see it as he pulled him back. As you see, I think from Dubravka's point of view, he's not planning on getting the ball there. He's expecting that to be dealt with by those in front of him. When it's not, he actually ends up making a save rather than trying to get to the ball as it comes across the area. So it's a reactions thing from the keeper. He again you'd question whether he could take charge of the situation, but there's a lot of bodies between him and the ball as it comes across, so not an easy situation. He's put Rondon and others on that near post area to do that job for him, and therefore he sits in and waits for the ball to come across a little.
And there it is on the right hand side. It is going to be played back by Longstaff. Goes across Lejeune, Clark, now Ritchie. Still one apiece, 10 minutes gone in the first stage of the second half. Clark's going to go long here, looking for Rondon, who's going to try and flick it on, and has done so. Alonso's pass is lazy. Willian just rescues him. There is Yedlin. Thought he'd gone walkabouts after that first misplaced run. There's Willian, great ball down the line to Hazard, and Chelsea now turning on the quality. Little flick down the line to Alonso. Because Hazard's not in the box, they've got no one. They need to get across here to go to the far post. Pedro skims it, and it's saved by Dubravka.
Yeah, good opportunity for Pedro, wasn't it? He just came to him around a group of players, but poor finish in the end. Easy save for Dubravka.
Yeah, early stages of the second half here at Stamford Bridge, and it's Chelsea 1, Newcastle 1. 2 saves from Dubravka. Have denied Pedro on 2 occasions so far. That's pretty much all we've seen in this early stages. The first was down from the right hand side. Kante's pass to the Spaniard was inch perfect. He hit it hard. Dubravka got a good save to it. This time from Alonso cross. Very team effort. Pedro scuffed it, but a chance here for Willian. Oh, and he's drilled the ball into the far corner. It's a brilliant strike from Willian, who's thumped it home. Newcastle were lazy to get out to him. You do not give Willian time to turn onto his stronger foot and score, Steve.
Yeah, too late, I'm afraid, for that Newcastle defence, as you say. The ball was there, it was played out. Willian given far too much room, but he takes full advantage. Lovely little finish into the far corner.
After a decent spell at the end of the first half, Newcastle have been punished for some lacklustre defending at the start of the second. They've had 2 chances from Pedro saved. This time Willian, third time lucky for the Chelsea side. He's turned inside. DeAndre Yedlin has, for the third time in this second half, has not got tight enough. He's given him a free shot alongside his teammate Lascelles. He's been out of position. He's been out of sorts. He's got to improve. Willian's finished though. Can't take anything away from him. Little turn inside on his right foot. Then he sweeps the right peg around the ball. Lascelles, it skims him, gives him a little haircut as it goes past him. Dubravka's got no chance. Chelsea 2, Newcastle 1.
Yep, got to agree with all that. It was poor defending again, but another good finish from Chelsea. We've seen it twice, haven't we? We saw it with the goal from Pedro early on in the game, taking advantage of some sloppy defending, really, and then again there you've got to close it down. It's obvious that Willian's going to get the ball from Hazard. Newcastle get sucked into the centre as they have a number of times. We saw it in some of the graphics around the half-time interval. The number of times there were spaces around the fullback in this Newcastle side needed to be exploited this time by Chelsea. They hadn't been effectively in the first half, but they have been pretty ruthless in these couple of occasions when they have done so. And that's what's led to the 2 goals and caused the problems. Both goals coming from runs that were made in behind fullbacks and the centre half on that side as well of the defensive 3. So clearly Chelsea have done their homework on Newcastle, and so far it's working to give them the advantage.
Yeah, it certainly is. Just seeing the goal flash come up on my phone to confirm it, and looking at the couple of the subs, we'll have a work through them for you. As here is Kovacic. A little dig here. In fact, he goes inside to Pedro. Paul wasn't even expecting that. Back out towards Azpilicueta. Through the subs once this attack has come to nothing. Which at the minute it's going backwards towards David Luiz on the edge of the halfway line. He looks up, fizzes the ball over the top. It's going to be cleared away. A little knockback. Kovacic and Jorginho combine. There's Hazard. A little pardon me. Before I stop choking. Marseille turn into Kovacic. The subs. And Pardew for Chelsea, the holding midfielder. Barkley could be one to sharpen them up. Same for Hudson-Odoi and Giroud. For Newcastle, Fernandes, Hosselu, Manquillo, Murphy, Shah, Sterry and Woodman. You're looking at Hosselu really, aren't you, and Murphy. They're the only 2 attacking players. I did see a Newcastle fan tweet earlier actually that they've got 4 defenders on the bench. It just sums up the squad at the minute, doesn't it?
It does. It's unbalanced, I'm afraid, from this Newcastle point of view, and the attacking players they have. Rondon probably the one that's different to the others, but not enough quality for me in that attacking area, and it's what everybody wants from an attacking point of view. As I said, saw two sides, Cardiff and Huddersfield, who would love to have a decent striker upfield who would get them 10 goals in the second half of the season. It's probably not going to happen because they're not going to be available and not within the price bracket or the interest of those kind of players to come to a side like Newcastle, like Cardiff, like Huddersfield, towards the bottom end of the table. And then we come back to, will they invest Newcastle in the situation that they find themselves in? But we've seen it again here. Stats come up on the screen. Newcastle lowest scorers in the second half of games, just 4 goals so far. So again, they've got to go against the stats that we've seen so far. Ross Barkley is going to be coming on in a second. He's just pulling off the training vest over his head and getting some instructions from the coaching folder that's put in front of his face, just so he knows for the set pieces, etc., where he's designated for various jobs from a defensive and attacking point of view. So with an hour gone, looks like Barkley's going to come on, and again, as you said, try and just add that extra little bit of pep to the midfield for Chelsea to see this one out.
Yeah, there's Rondon into Perez. We're going to try and go. Far side is Ritchie. Rondon works the 1-2 with Perez, who's pulled down, is he, by Rudiger. He goes down in the box, nothing given. Well, he was clean through. So if he's gone down when he should have stayed on his feet, he's a fool himself. Worked the 1-2 with Rondon. Now, is he pulled over? The replay's not going to show us from that angle, will it? From this, just go down pretty quickly. There's nothing really in it. He just waits for the touch. He just wants him to be brought down for a penalty. Play on. I mean,
Rudiger puts an arm out on him, but it just catches him on the arm rather than anything else. There's nothing else in it. Perez falls to the floor rather dramatically. There's nothing in that at all. It's not that he's blocked off. It's not that he's pulled back. There's no grab that time by Rudiger or anything like that. He just puts an arm out of the play, goes past him. Nothing in it at all. Quite right to wave that one away.
Yeah, ball down the line. Hazard's going to chase him. He's going to get the legs pumping as well. He gets to the ball. Williams inside if he wants to play it to him. Good interception from Lejeune. Back to Hazard, who's going to thump it across the goal. It's deflected over the top from Lejeune. Will he let it bounce? He will. Yedlin's going to race with him. William wrestles it off him though. Great strength from him. Back to Alonso. He's going to try and prod it down the line, is he? And he goes back. There's William. William instead. Heavy touch from Alonso. Gets dispossessed. Rondon's got his shirt being pulled by Jorginho. Then he goes off the ball, wins the free kick. Should be a card. And that change should now be allowed to be made.
Yeah, pretty obvious bit of pulling back by Jorginho again. He was on the wrong side of Rondon. Can't deal with him. Can't hold him back in terms of his power effectively or legally. So just pulls him back and will take the yellow card and the free kick. Just to avoid Newcastle getting forward, as you said, you would expect Barkley to be coming onto the field now, and finally it looks like he will be. So Kovacic, who's kind of faded away a little bit in this second half, not really had a major impact on the game, not necessarily done anything wrong particularly, but not really got himself enough involved for me in the match, and Barkley just gives them that little bit extra for these last 20-25 minutes or so of the game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. As we see the ball played out down the right hand side, it's going to be Yedlin that backs out of it, so Alonso can just maybe take a bit more time before clearing downfield. It's a great pass to Willian, whose flick onto Hazard's even better. He runs into traffic though. Lejeune runs into traffic likewise, but he actually manages to prod it forward to Atsu. Atsu down the right to Perez. Perez has to go first time and does. Out comes Kepa. Really good hands. Really good hands, Kepa. Not seen too much of him. By the way, Hazard is down after that little collision he had in midfield. But he doesn't look the tallest, Kepa, but I don't think he's small, is he? He's not. I think he's under 6 foot. He just doesn't look the biggest.
No, he's got giants around him, hasn't he? In terms of Rudiger and Luiz as well. Long ball over the top by Luiz again. Oh, good opportunity. And is that a good save by Dubravka? I think it is. He's put behind anyway. Willian trying to do the same as Pedro and lift it over the keeper. But it looks like Dubravka's got a hand on that one and pushed it away. But again, very similar ball. Again, it's an angled run, sweeping away from out wide round the fullback before the defender, centre half, can get across. And yeah, it's a really good stop this time by Dubravka. Makes a really good save.
It certainly does. It's going to bounce just away from the far side, and there is Lascelles pushing it wide. Going to be hurting his ankle, Lascelles. The issue with pitches, isn't it, when he's jumped up to try and block it, and when his foot's landed, the ground's uneven as it slopes off the stadium. It's the worst one's Old Trafford, as Willian swings in the ball to the near post, flick to the back stick. A couple of players lurking. I think Alonso was one of them. There is Kante. Has to go back up the line, but he's played the ball straight out of play. Newcastle will get the throw in, and That's the one thing for Newcastle. Game's not going their way. And yes, I know they're a team, and I know that they stick together and you become friends, but he must look at his bench, Benitez, and think, right, what do I actually do with that? I mean, he wanted Hosselu, who I think is a worker, isn't he? But he's not a finisher. Lascelles is their talisman, and he's struggling to walk at the minute. The referee's saying to him, do you want treatment? And he goes, no. Then he falls over and lays backwards. So this is how it's happened. Williams chipped it. He's then gone to try and stop the ball. He's ran into the away end, but as he's done it, he's rolled his ankle, I think.
I think it might. Well, he's jarred his knee actually as he's pulled up there, because he doesn't seem to clatter into the advertising hoardings in terms of his knee, but he seems to stop. He's cut himself actually, quite a bit of blood on the knee actually, so he did catch it with the right foot.
Look at those for eyes.
I know.
Absolutely brilliant. I thought he just twinned the ankle as he's gone to roll the ball away, but
it was just the way he was walking. I thought it doesn't look like an ankle problem. It looks like he's something further up. And I thought first instinct was that he jarred his knee, that he put his foot into the ground too hard as he tried to stop himself. But actually, looking at it, he's just caught himself on the advertising hoarding. So he's not only whacked it into the advertising hoarding, it's also cut as well. So he'll have to get a little bit of treatment maybe to try and get that tidied up before he can carry on. I think he'll be okay in that sense. He looks like he's back onto his feet. He looks like he's trying to get a little bit of blood off the knees as well. You see a little replay of Eden Hazard's trickery around the edge of the penalty area, and then this one for Willian as well, as you say. Yedlin never getting close enough to him. Lovely